Hey, how's it going everyone? Today we're going to talk about Cyberpunk 2077 because the developers have confirmed that there's going to be an update sometime soon. This patch is going to contain quite a few improvements in terms of path tracing and also those pesky little bugs that you may have encountered last patch. Not to mention, we're also going to take a look at what CDProjket had to say about Unreal Engine 5. But let's go ahead and dive right into this. So recently the developers were asked quite a few questions by a website named wccftech.com. The interviewer was able to ask a few questions here. The first one was about opacity Microm Map Support, as well as a displaced micro mesh. The interviewer wanted to know whether or not this was coming in a future update. The developer had this to say right here. Quote, micromesh is a fascinating technology that will allow us to get much better geometry fidelity, cheaper, but it needs a new asset pipeline in place to seriously make gains with it. Take into account the fact that our game is truly massive, and it is already a mature game with its release clocking almost 3 years. We focus on the technology progress accordingly. We try to create measurable visuals and performance gains for the players that do not require massive reworks on the content side, as that would be a huge time investment. That's why micromaps with very little extra work on the content side were implemented and already released with Phantom Liberty. It made a lot of sense to do that as soon as possible. Now, if you did not know about it, I guess it was already implemented right as Phantom Liberty was released. Let's go ahead and talk about the next question that was asked. The next thing that was talked about was whether or not there were going to be any improvements on path tracing technology, and are they planning to add pretty much anything new to this? Well, what the developers had to say is right here. Quote, we are still maturing our path tracing implementation. We focus on low light image stability and overall image quality delivered with path tracing. We implemented a quality booster for indirect calculations that stabilized the situation where there normally was little luminance energy, and as a result, we had a low amount of light samples, resulting in a boiling and blurriness effect. We also worked on some details of the image presentation targeting character rendering. Overall, I think we managed to bring the solution to a very stable and visually mature state with the planned release. Well, if you're looking for some improvements in terms of path tracing or overdrive, it's not going to happen. It seems that they're pretty satisfied with the results. The next thing that was talked about here was whether or not we're going to see an update for AMD's Fidelity FX Super Resolution 3. The developers had this to say right here, quote, this is a new and very interesting technology, and I can definitely confirm that we are working on a full FSR3 implementation. But it is still an ongoing process, and we feel we need still more time to release it with the desired outcome. I would like to avoid giving firm estimates on when it will happen. Now, I feel like there's not a release date because they're probably working on some other things behind the scenes. For example, there's some bugs that popped up just recently after patch 2.02. And if I'm not wrong, that patch was released last month or maybe the month before. It seems like the months have just went by so quick as of late. But anyways, it pretty much, when it comes down to it, it's going to take some time. It's been a while since the last one, and so when it comes down to the patch, I do not think it's going to be just about Fidelity FX. I think it's going to contain much more than that. And for those that are experiencing some game-breaking bugs, we're going to be going over that shortly, but for now, let's go ahead and talk about the next bit of information. The interviewer was able to ask one more question, and this next one had to do with Unreal Engine 5. Because as you guys all know, that CDProjket is making the swap over to it for Project Orion, which is the next Cyberpunk game. The interviewer wanted to know whether or not CDProjket had any concerns or comments about Unreal Engine 5, considering that there has been some previous games that have, that have had some issues with path tracing and a bunch of other things, right? Well, the developers had this to say right here, quote, I think one of the fundamental forces that shape our progress at CDProjket is ambition, a passion to make things our very own way and create games for players with better storytelling and visual quality with every release. At the same time, we proved in the past that we also push the technology to its limits to achieve our goals. Our team gained an amazing perspective and knowledge of solving technical problems that would consider as safe to avoid solving. and I think moving to Unreal Engine changes nothing in that regard. End quote. I do want to cut it off right here. So it does appear that CDProjket is still on board for Unreal Engine 5, which is good news. The Red engine was absolutely great in its own way, but it's nice to see that they're going to step up, and it's going to be really exciting to see what the game's going to look like either next year if they do release a trailer. Maybe that's too soon, maybe the next 2 years. Who knows when CDProjket is going to give us any information when it comes down to Project Orion. Either or, I am excited because this definitely will give the game a new look, and things can improve over time, right? So path tracing might not even be a huge issue like a year or two later. Let's get back to what the developer had to say. Right here, the developer continues on to say, quote, "We also tried to build a very close and strong relationship with our partners, and that approach has allowed us to deliver many amazing things in the past, with our recent path tracing implementation being a very fresh example of the strategy." Again, nothing changes in that regard either. For sure, usually a different engine with a different balance in terms of how it's built compared to Red engine, and we will definitely put in a lot of effort and share a lot of passion with our partners in order to harness Unreal Engine's greatest strengths and expand its capabilities, so we can create the games we wish to make for our players. What's more, we again aim to push technical boundaries while doing so. We have not made our ambitions any smaller in the slightest when it comes to that. Well, it appears that CDProjket has quite a lot of confidence coming into Project Orion, and what's even better is that, well, they definitely did push the technical boundaries when it came down to Red engine. For example, RTX, or even the fact that the implemented overdrive was pretty insane. Now, some of us can't even run that, but for those that did, they definitely showed us how beautiful that can actually be if you do have the system requirements. In this interview, they even talk about pushing the boundaries for Unreal Engine 5. I mean, look what they did with Red Engine and they did with Overdrive. It's going to be bonkers what they're able to do with Unreal Engine 5. I cannot wait, and I'm sure some of you cannot wait either. Now, with performance to the side or pretty much graphic improvements, what else is going to be included in this patch? They are definitely not going to release a patch just for Fidelity FX. I would imagine there's also going to be some improvements in terms of quests and also some bugs that some of you have experienced lately after the latest patch 2.02. Before I go any further, I do want to say that there's going to be a spoiler alert right away, so it's going to be about Mr. Hands and how he looks, so just throwing that out there. The first biggest issue right now is some players have experienced this bug right here where Mr. Hands, you cannot interact with him for whatever reason. This is one of many issues that just popped up after the latest patch. Now right here, this Reddit user had this to say, quote, "So I'm on PS5 and I have some 7 hours in Cyberpunk. After the latest patch, I get loads of glitches, bugs, and it crashes a lot. Anybody has the same problem? I mean, I played the game right after the release on PS4 and I swear out wasn't this bad." Yeah, so it wasn't this bad actually, and he's absolutely right. Then if we go down below, another user, which is on PC, had this to say, quote, "I play on PC and before patch 2.02, everything worked fine. Now there's a lot of bugs, people walking through cars floating above the road, and many others," end quote. And it's not just this, there's other bugs that have been going on with quests that completely stops you from progressing, which is absolutely game breaking. But these things are definitely popping up after the latest patch. I'm interested in whether or not you have been experiencing some issues after this patch. Let me know what you have been going through as of late. Maybe they'll patch it. Maybe we can send a huge report over there. I don't know. Let's talk about it. Thank you guys for checking out the video. If you have any questions, comment down below. Other than that, thank you again for the support, and I'll see you all in the next video.